Hello there everyone, welcome back to another video about the children's trading card game. As you can see, I am a little bit ill and not where I usually am, so I do apologise for the sound of my throat in this video, but I'm just going to be going through and reviewing the last 8 days or so of card reveals. There have been a lot, so I'm going to try and blaze through this as fast as possible. We'll begin with speed. This is a 2-drop 3000 power unit with a trigger effect to play the card. Depending on how important those traits end up being and like needing field presence, this could be okay. But like, I'm pretty confident, like especially on like cheap units, you're really gonna want them to be doing something meaningful. And like late game, getting just like a free like 2/3 is like, oh wow, like sick. Yeah, I don't think this card is super good, and it's probably not going to see much play. Artificial Delfruit Smile. This is a 2-cost Beast Pirate Smile event. Look at the top 5 cards of your deck and choose one Smile type character card that costs 3 or less from them and play it. Then you place your remaining cards at the bottom of the deck in any order, and the trigger activates the card's main effects. Obviously, as a trigger, this is super good. You're just getting a free unit. Obviously, it's limited to 3 or less, which isn't ideal. And I think like the problem here is like that this would mean that like the Smile deck is going to be running lots of cheap units, and considering the speed at which mana is gained in this game, that deck is going to need a lot of card advantage, or a lot of ways to convert those cheap units into something more valuable to be any good. That remains to be seen. At the moment, this seems fine, but like it's really going to depend on how good the supporting attributes around it are. Then we got this promo Luffy. This is a new promo. I think it's a V-John promo. It's fine. It's just like a worse version of Zoro. It's also a 3-drop that can get to 7k, but you have to don it twice to do that. And it only gets power during your turn, so it's not even like it can be 5k on your opponent's turn. So yeah, I know this is very good. You're probably not playing it. Then we've got Holden. This is a 3-cost 4000 unit. On KO, add 1 Don card from your Don deck as arrested, and it has a 1000 counter. I don't know how I feel about this card, because like on the one hand, your opponent is probably going to have to attack into it or remove it for you to like get that ability, but it's not like you can force them to do that. You know, you're just going to have to be swinging in with it. To do that, you're going to need to be donning this up just to swing into anything like remotely, like to at least threaten, at least rip a card from your opponent's hand, or you're just wasting an attack. And then your opponent has to actually attack this, and I'm like, I mean, people have said like, oh yeah, but that's so good because like, oh, you know, your opponent's going to be able to like, you're going to be able to ramp, it's going to be amazing, and your opponent's going to leave this unit on board. And I'm like, yeah, okay, but like, do I really give a shit if my opponent like gets to keep this 3-drop 4k, or is they having to dedicate like 2 dons to a turn to even be remotely threatening? Probably not. Additionally, like this card suddenly becomes like completely meaningless later on in the game when you're at maxed out mana. So I don't know. I don't think this is very good. I could be wrong. You know, it's a ramp card, and ramp cards are typically quite so who's to say? But there we go. Next is Kamazo the Manslayer. 4-cost 5000 power unit here. Kid Supernova, Kid Pirates and Smile. On KO, Don -1. KO one of your opponent's characters with a cost of 5 or less. I like this card a lot more. Why is that? Well, it's 4-cost 5000 power unit, which means that you can actually threaten without needing to load dons onto it. And later game, if you do load dons onto it, they're getting much more efficient the more dons you load onto it. On top of that, you're carrying a 5 or less is actually going to be a reasonable number of things in the game. It's going to be dealing with engines as well as like potential threat units. There's a lot of them we've seen in the 3 to 5 cost range. So yeah, I think this is a much better card. I'm a bigger fan of this card. Next we've got Killer. This is a 2-cost 2000 power green unit. Supernovas and Kid Pirates. It has blocker and Don 1/1 blocking. If you control 3 or more characters, draw a card. So I'm a big fan of this. It's a cheap blocker that's going to plus you for blocking with it. Your opponent's either going to have to remove it with some effect or bounce it or something. For you to not get that draw, because like, I mean, let's be real, like as soon as you play this after like the first like 3 or 4 turns, you're meeting that restriction, and you get it when blocking. So this is the thing, right? Like you block and you instantly get that plus, so that can potentially lead to some fun counter shenanigans off top decks. Overall, yeah, big fan. Good traits. Yeah, I think this is a great card. Punk Gibson. This is a 2-cost Supernova Kid Pirates event. Counter your leader or up to one of your characters gains 4000 power for the duration of this battle. So same as Borrow Breath. We've seen how good that is. Then arrest one of your opponent's characters that costs 4 or less, and the trigger arrests one of your opponent's characters. So the trigger is not fantastic. It's like not bad by any means, but your opponent is potentially your opponent could play around it by going all characters first and leader last. But mainly it's that first effect. The counter to 4k is big. 4k is really big. That's like probably going to save you against most attacks. And resting an additional character means that your opponent's going to get like pretty punished. You're going to be dealing with a lot of their aggro. And that's that's going to be really, really card efficient, right? You have 1 card to potentially deal with 2 attacks, and it's only going to cost you 2 don. Really, it's going to depend on how easy it is to have that 2 dons like free, which like potentially combo with like Scalper and stuff, and maybe we're going to start seeing that being better. But yeah, I think this is a pretty good card. Next we got Bartolomeo. This is a 2-cost 2k blocker. Don 2, on your opponent's turn, this character gains 3,000 power. So unlike other blockers, this is going to be 4k on your turn when you don it up. And it's going to be 5k as a blocker. But the problem with this is, well, I mean, okay, look, a 2-drop 5k blocker is not bad, absolutely, and it's probably going to stop like a lot of early game cheaper units. I'm just like, how badly do you want to be like spending 2 of your dons on your turn to just like get yourself a slightly bigger blocker on the next turn? I don't know. I feel like I'd have to try this one out. It could go either way. At the moment, I'm leaning on this as a weaker card than a stronger one. It's still a cheap blocker, so that's valuable in and of itself. So that could be really, really good. But I'm like a little iffy on it. Next, we got Gum Gum Red Hawk. This is a 2-cost Supernova Straw Hat Crew event. Counter, your leader up to one of your characters gains 4,000 power for the duration of the battle. Then, KO one of your opponent's characters with 4,000 power or less. Or trigger is your opponent's leader or one of their characters loses 10,000 power for the duration of this turn. So this card's all kinds of amazing. The trigger is like super good. It's basically going to guarantee to invalidate one of your opponent's attacks like coming at you, like especially late game. That's super, super strong. And the counter, 4,000 power, we know how big that is. And immediately just KOing something, like, obviously if they've donned it up, that's going to suck. But if your opponent doesn't play around this in the way they structure their turn, that can be really, really punishing. Yeah, I think just like super good. Super, super good. I'm a big fan. Then we've got Kobe. This is just a vanilla. It's fine. Then we've got this SR Luffy. This card is absolutely ridiculous. This is a 2-cost 3,000 power striker. Don 2, this card cannot be KO'd when battling a strike attributed character. So this will be a 5,000 power unit that cannot be KO'd when it's attacking other things. And activate main once per turn. We give this character up to 2 rested Don cards. So I think that's really the main draw, right? Like, this is guaranteed every single turn. It's going to be 5k. It's a 2-drop 5k, like, for free, every single turn. I mean, like, that's amazing in, like, Rush. That's amazing in Control. That's, like, amazing. Like, a general, it's just, like, a utility tool. Like, yeah, this is nuts. This is super, super good. Yeah, I think this is one of the best cards that Red got. Super, super, super good. And then it's got a knocked art. Then we've got Jinbei here. This is just a vanilla. Then we get into the Baroque work support here. This is super, super good. So we start with Mr. 3. 2-drop 3,000 power unit. On play, if your leader is Baroque Works, target one of your opponent's 4-cost or lower characters, and until the end of your opponent's next turn, that character cannot attack. So how good is this? Early game, this is going to be way better because your opponent's always going to be playing cheap things. But this is just going to like restrict what your opponent's able to do and potentially just act as like a little deterrent to really screw them over, basically, and make their lives like really difficult. It's cheap, and depending on how prevalent these like cheaper units are in the game, this card's only just going to get better and better. And it's one of those things like it's tunable with like everything. So yeah, I don't know. I think this is a pretty strong card. But then we got the man, the myth, the legend himself, Bonclay, Mr. 2. 3-drop 4k. Don 1, when attacking, look at the top 5 cards of your deck, reveal up to 1 Baroque Works type event and add it to your hand. Place it in the bottom deck in any order. So you're going to be donning this guy anyway when you attack because 5k is like that minimum threshold. So basically, just for existing, you're going to be like probably going plus as long as your events, take up enough of your deck, which they probably will. That's the impression I've gotten. The only downside is obviously it needs to be Baroque Works attributed. But that's probably not going to be a problem because as we go through it down further, we can see that here we've got Sables, a 4-cost event here. Main, return a character with cost 7 or less to its owner's hand, and the trigger activates the card's main. So the trigger here is ridiculous. Like 7 or less is going to hit functionally everything in the game. And if that screws up your opponent's turn, they are really going to be hating you. And even as they like this level of removal is very strong, but like the trigger is super good. That's going to like swing games and it's going to piss a lot of people off. But yeah, this card is really, really good. Then we've got Mr. 1. This is a 2-drop 3,000 power unit. And Don 1, during your turn, if your leader is Baroque Works, for every 2 events in your trash, this character gains 1,000 power. So this is a card that can get very big very quickly. Obviously, it's going to depend on how many events you're actually playing, and this does imply that you're going to be playing quite a few. But it's pretty reasonable. This was going to hit like 5 or 6k with that 1 Don pretty quickly, and at that point, it's like quite a valuable card to be hitting those big numbers for so cheap. And you want to be playing those cheaper units in blue because you need to have your Dons open for your other your events and such on your opponent's turn. So yeah, big fan of this card. I think it's pretty good. Then we've got the Officer Agents. This is a Baroque Works event. 2-drop counter. Play up to 1 Baroque's top character that costs 3 or less from your hand, or trigger activate this card's counter effect. So how good is this? It's really going to depend on obviously the on plays and like the blocking and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I think this is pretty cool with Missile Sunday because you can just suddenly like get a blocker, and then when Missile Sunday dies, you get this back. Which is obviously pretty cool. Missile Sunday is like amazing in general. And yeah, I don't know. I just think this is a pretty decent ability. I'd like to see more on-entry effects to really decide how good this is going to be, or more blockers. Because at the moment, like, putting in something in your opponent's turn, it's like fine, you know? I mean, at the end of the day, it's like, I guess it's more efficient, right? But you have to, like, you know, save for your opponent's turn, and it's We'll need to see. We'll need to see. There's going to have to be some crazy combos with it, though. Then we've got Sentomaru. This is a 3-drop 4K unit. Don 1, activate main once per turn. You pay 2. Play a 4 cost or lower Pacifista from your deck and then shuffle your deck. So you've got to don this up. It's going to be 5k, that's fine. And then you've got to pay 2. Pacifista, we'll see, is just a vanilla 6k. So this is going to be really important in the Pacifista deck, and like crap outside of that. Then we've got Hyogoro, 2-drop 3,000 power units. Activate main, you can rest this character. Your leader or one of your characters gains 2,000 power during this turn and counter plus 1k. How good is this? It's like a field that can be interacted with. I don't know. I don't think these types of abilities are going to be super, super good. Like, I mean, okay, I understand like every single turn, like a 2k pump is like really nice. So there is that. But the problem is like you have to rest this character, which means your opponent can like, just interact with it. You know, like it's not like Nami, right, which just hangs around and your opponent has to like use specific removal to deal with it. Like this just is attackable. So yeah, I'm not a massive fan of this card. And then we got the Pacifista here. It's just another Ashura Doji. This is a 3-drop 4,000 power / unit. Don 1, if your opponent has at least 2 rested characters, this character gains 2,000 power. So that will make him a 7k attacker. How good is this going to be? It depends on how aggressive the meta is, really. Like, obviously, if you just play this and your opponent like is not like resting that many characters, or just like hanging them or keeping them around, or like doesn't play that many characters to begin with, it's going to suck. If your opponent plays lots of small little units, then this could be quite nice. And just being very efficient, but I mean, I don't know, it seems like it's just Zoro, but like with way extra steps, like way more restrictions. Zoro is very hard to beat. Then we get a alt art for Trafalgar. Next, we've got Otama, 1-drop 0 cost, 1-drop 0 power unit. On play, give one of your opponent's characters minus 2,000 power during this turn, and it has a count of 2k. So the count of 2k is obviously very, very good. This can be quite a nice combo piece, especially if you can keep bouncing it. The problem is you can't choose your opponent's leader, otherwise that'd be really, really strong. I don't know how good this is. Really going to depend on like combo potential and like to what extent you can afford to be like running a card like this. My inclination is it's not going to be that good, but I could be wrong. Then we have got Thrust Pad Cannon, the event here. This is a Shichibukai and Revolutionary Army event. Costs 2, it's counter, return of 3 cost or lower characters to its owner's hand, and trigger activates card's counter effect. This could be okay. Again, really going to depend on like the extent to which the opponent's actually playing those kind of events that you want to be seeing. So yeah, and then finally we have Rhizo. Move up a little bit here. Who is a 3-drop when attacking once per turn. If you have 2 or more rested characters, draw 1, and this doesn't require any dons for that effect. So you can safely like just use it whenever you want. You don't have to like really play around it. If you're trying to dig for something, this can do that. But you're probably going to don it once just to be threatening. I think Rhizo's pretty good. I'm a fan of Rhizo. Like that card advantage draw, like 2 or more rested characters is not too difficult. It's going to be like near the end of the turn, but it can like potentially get you out of a sticky situation on the next turn. So yeah, I'm a pretty big fan. So there we go. That's the reveals for these last week or so. Please subscribe to the channel for more One Piece content and more card reveals as they happen. Hopefully next time I make one of these I'm going to be a lot less sick, but I appreciate you for bearing with me, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers.